Are we finally on the verge of peace in Ukraine? Well, maybe. That is, if the warmongers don't have their way. Right now, high-level talks happening between the United States and Russia in Saudi Arabia sounds like a good thing, right? Well, but here's the kicker. You'd think, but Ukraine isn't invited. Europe isn't invited, and that's making a lot of people very nervous, including Erdogan of Turkey, who says he wants a full return of Ukraine's territory and what he says is a Russian land grab, which is not up for discussion. He's like, nope. So any land grab has to return to Ukrainian pre-2014 territory. Who knows? Crimea included, I guess. Okay, so just so we're clear, Turkey just invaded northern Syria and is now controlling Aleppo, Hama, Homs, and many other Syrian cities. So hypocrite much? Okay. Anyway, here's the meeting, and you can see Marco Rubio here sitting at the table, and you've got members of the Saudi delegation there as well as Sergei Lavrov of Russia. I mean, it's unbelievable that this wasn't allowed to happen over the past few years. No one from the Biden administration called, no discussions at all.
Oh, no, but I will remind you that the Biden administration went to peace talks facilitated by Zelensky that excluded Russia. So the people who are super nervous right now that Ukraine was not involved in these peace talks, they were totally fine when Russia was excluded,
in Switzerland,
right. Several times over the last couple of years. Those people seem to be very inconsistent about that. Also, I just couldn't help but wonder that Marco Rubio sitting there, I wonder if he floated his idea with Sergei Lavrov that the Russians blew up the Nord Stream pipeline.
Which is something he said before.
He has gone on record saying that. He looks very nervous as he sits there with these Russian officials, that I hope they don't bring up that bullshit that I said on CNN. I was just saying it on TV.
I mean, Marco Rubio, again, we've been very critical of Marco Rubio here on the show. He's been, it seemed like he teamed up with Victoria Nuland, pushing, discussions about the biolabs in Ukraine, the Nord Stream pipeline boondoggle. He's openly been, pushing for war with Iran. Now it seems like he's like a peacemaker. So, okay, is he really doing the bidding of President Trump? We hope so. We hope he's not undermining him, and hopefully that he's carrying the pail for Donald Trump, who wants peace right now. So he now is openly, and Rubio is now openly advocating for a U.S.-Russia partnership. Something that Bill Clinton scuttled many, many years ago when he decided to push NATO right up to the wall of Russia, saying America needs to take advantage of the incredible opportunity to work with Putin geopolitically, economically, and on issues of common interest. Listen to Rubio.
But ultimately, the Russian side will be indispensable to this effort, and so that process will begin. And then the third is, together with those other two, is beginning to engage in identifying the extraordinary opportunities that exist should this conflict come to a acceptable end, the credible opportunities that exist to partner with the Russians geopolitically on issues of common interest, and frankly economically on issues that hopefully will be good for the world and will also improve our relations in the long term between.
Wow. What?
Now, many are reporting that Zelensky has said we don't recognize this. Zelensky is saying he personally no longer feels supported. His feelings are hurt by this. He thought the U.S. was his boy. He's very confused. One of the conditions that came out of this meeting was that Ukraine would have to hold elections, which Zelensky canceled 2 years ago, saying the Ukrainian people, they don't want a new leader. They like the war they've got. They like the leader they've got. They're cool with the way things are. And so now he is absolutely fuming. He was supposed to go to Saudi Arabia himself, but once he realized that he would not be invited to the adults table at the negotiation of peace, he abruptly canceled his trip and said no deal gets done without Ukraine. But how can he continue the war without the money and support of the United States? Now, here we have, at the very least, the Trump administration admitting this war was started by the United States and it needs to be finished by the United States. Zelensky has no power, no money, no troops, and without the United States, he has no support. So what's he going to do? Fight it himself? Clearly not, although he's always dressed for it. So there's that, right? European leaders are also losing their minds. Macron is holding emergency meetings in Paris. Scholz is warning that peace can't happen without Europe. Ursula von der Leyen said we need an emergency freak out mentality. That's what she said on X. We need an emergency mentality. This is serious. She's inviting us all to collectively panic. You can, if you want to. I remind you that she's not elected. So you don't have to follow her into any emotions if you don't want to. Meanwhile, the United States and Russia are calling these talks constructive. Marco Rubio and Sergei Lavrov sitting at the same table. There's even chatter that this could set the stage for a Trump and Putin meeting, which both of them have discussed, President Trump said. So is this actually a step forward when it comes to peace? It's a story that's moving fast, so stay with us all week.
Yeah, I love that Zelensky had to cancel. It's like, I'm not going to those. I wasn't invited, so I'm not. I wasn't invited, so now I'm not going.
I also am not going. Should I take to Twitter and announce that?
Yeah, you should take to Twitter and announce that you're not going, even though you weren't invited.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll do that. Every important event, I'm going to announce that when I have decided not to go, when I've not been invited.
You know, the problem with these huge tech companies is they don't want your money. They want to know everything about you. Shadowy data brokers make a living compiling detailed profiles of your online activity, and then they sell them to marketers and other corporate interests that want to control you with targeted ads. They're not selling a product, they're selling you. But you don't have to let them. There's a great way to keep your browsing history truly private, and we use it every day here on this show. We couldn't do our show without it. It's an app called ExpressVPN. One of the easiest ways for data brokers to track you is through your device's unique IP address, which also reveals information about your exact location. With ExpressVPN, your IP address is hidden. That makes it much more difficult for data brokers to monitor, track, and monetize your private online activity. ExpressVPN also encrypts 100% of your network traffic to keep your data safe from hackers when you're on public Wi-Fi. The other day, I was out at a coffee shop, and I was using ExpressVPN because there's no way in the world that I want my private information on an open Wi-Fi network, especially if you're doing banking or just, surfing the web or doing work. You don't want that information out there. ExpressVPN works on all of your devices, your phone, your laptop, your tablet, you name it. Just tap one button, turn it on, and you're protected. It's that easy. Find out how you can get 4 months free by scanning the QR code right on your screen, right there, clicking the link in the description box below, or simply by going to expressvpn.com/redacted. Well, what about all the FEMA money going to help illegal immigrants?
Well, we're learning more by the day. According to a new report, the Biden administration spent over $10 billion on illegal immigrants in 1 year. Now, they did this by funneling tens of billions in grants to migrants and refugees through HHS, Office of Refugee Settlement. This is the same HHS, Office of Refugee Settlement, we're going to call it ORR, which came under fire last year for having lost track of 32,000 migrant kids in the United States. I think that's a typo. It was 300,000, right? Can you check that for me? Let's check that because my memory serves. It's 300,000.
It's total 300, but last year specifically,
according this organization,
through this resettlement program, according to the New York Post, it was 300. It was 32,000 children, according to the New York Post, last year. Just last year.
That's just this organization, yeah. But we also had Department of Homeland Security admitting that they lost 300,000. So It's an order of magnitude by a lot more. The truth we know is being suppressed or underestimated. As an example, one of the corrupt charities that received this grant, we've been telling you all along, is that Catholic churches, Catholic charities are running this trafficking system. This report validates this. It's Catholic charities that we've documented have allegedly involved the movement of illegal migrant children throughout the United States and received so much money from President Biden's FEMA program that they just don't know what to do with all that money because since Trump took over, they haven't had a single illegal immigrant walk through their doors. That's funny, right?
Director of Catholic Charities Rio Grande Valley says since Trump took office, some days they haven't had any migrants released to them by Border Patrol at the Humanitarian Respite Center in downtown McAllen. And although they have received over $7 million in FEMA funds the last fiscal year, Sister Pimentel says she is not using the money unless she has more people to help.
Our numbers are basically almost to zero. We do have 3 families that maybe one day arrive and the next day nobody, and then the next day maybe one family. So it's very uncertain right now as to who we're receiving, and
so
you would be happy, right, that there's less needy people walking through your door.
You mean there's no illegal migrants coming in, and that the money that FEMA has given you, which should be used for Americans, is now not needed? Maybe the $7 million that you just received in the past few days, in the last few days of the Biden administration, can be sent back maybe to FEMA. Here's an idea. I mean, you're literally being, given these billions of dollars in grants to facilitate the lives of illegal immigrants in the United States.
And you look at the redundancy here, right? Because we have FEMA, which should be focusing on emergencies for Americans. We have the Department of Health and Human Services, which should be focusing on health and human services of Americans. We also have the Department of Homeland Security, which separately was using American taxpayer dollars to fund illegal immigrants. So it's not just double dipping, it's triple dipping. This is HHS. Yes, the one that RFK Jr. is now in charge of after his confirmation last week. They were spending $22 billion from between 2020 and 2024 to buy illegal migrants, cars, homes, even startup money to fund a business. So how many legal Americans had access to that help? I'm asking you. And again, the redundancy is staggering right now. This should be a bipartisan issue.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I'm sorry, I was dealing with something. Did you get this part?
I did.
Okay, good.
I'm on that one.
We want to tell you about our friends at Hillsdale College, because one of my favorite traditions is choosing some New Year's resolutions. My birthday is on New Year's Eve, so I get to sort of pick what I want to do for the year and kind of lay out my goals. And we all get to start fresh, set new goals, tackle new and exciting challenges. And February is hard because maybe you've set some things for the year and you're already rolling them back. Well, you know what? Now is the time to get off your duff and learn something new. And Hillsdale College offers more than 40 free online courses. And maybe this year you said to yourself, I want to educate myself a little bit more about the Constitution, the United States Constitution, or maybe the rise and fall of the Roman Empire. And are we seeing similarities right now, what's happening in the West as this globalist domination is starting to crumble? What does that look like compared to Rome? You can take their course on that. It's all free. So it's really fantastic. I really love the Roman one. I have to be honest with you. There's so much. I think a lot of people talk about the fall of the Roman Empire and they really don't understand how it happened. And it's such a great course. So go to Hillsdale College right now /redacted. It's hillsdale.edu/redacted to enroll. There's no cost. It's easy to get started. Over 40 free courses right now. So if you've got a little extra time, instead of watching some Netflix or whatever, wasting time, take a course, learn about the U.S. Constitution or C.S. Lewis or the Book of Genesis or the fall of the Roman Empire. Go to hillsdale.edu/redacted to enroll for free. That's hillsdale.edu/redacted. All right, let's take a look at this. So this is in Germany. So is Germany responsible in part for Alexei Navalny's death? Well, it's sure looking.
Wait, are you sorry? Okay,
no, you go ahead.
I just freaked out because yes, they are. You read the medical reports. Okay, sorry. No, you do it. You take it.
Okay. Is Germany responsible in part for Alexei Navalny's death? I have this rubber band. I'm going to shoot it at you right now. It's sure looking that way.
I read the medical reports.
Do you want to take it?
No, I don't. I want you to do your own story.
Is Germany responsible in part for Alexei Navalny's death? Well, it's sure looking that way. Germany's detestable foreign minister, Alena Baerbock, is under fire for reportedly blocking a deal that could have secured Alexei Navalny's release from prison. So here's some context. Before his death, Moscow allegedly sent Berlin a list of potential prisoners for a prisoner swap, a prisoner exchange, which included Navalny. Chancellor Olaf Scholz really wanted the deal, according to reports, and he was pushing hard for the deal and wanted Navalny released to Germany. But Baerbock blocked it. And why, you might ask? Why was Navalny more useful to the CIA by being, was Navalny more useful to the CIA by being in prison up in the Arctic Circle in Russia than he would have been as being released. It was much more likely that he'd be used as a martyr in that regard, correct? So Baerbock blocked the prisoner swap and was dragging her feet. And by the time a decision was finally made, Navalny was already dead. He had a lot of ailments, of course, over the years. His official death autopsy showed combination of diseases, including hypertension, pancreatitis, leading to a fatal heart arrhythmia. These ailments were well documented long before he committed fraud and went to prison. So all of this happened 1 year ago, and Navalny's family asking questions now, as they should be. But here's the thing. Despite the way the Western media portrayed him, Navalny was never some massive political threat to Putin in Russia. In fact, in Russia, he barely had any support. Almost no votes. Most Russians didn't even know who he was or even classify him as anything other than a corrupt business person who committed fraud and embezzlement involving a timber company as just one of his crimes. But that didn't stop the CIA and Western governments, of course, trying to prop up the guy. And as a so-called opposition leader, he wasn't an opposition leader at all. And let's not forget the infamous fake poisoning story, the claim that Putin tried to assassinate Navalny with Novichok. And the whole bogus story was pushed hard by the Western intelligence and media, yet it's been widely debunked, as we've debunked it here on the show.
He was flown to Germany with the approval of Vladimir Putin for him to be treated, even though nobody around him wore hazmat suits. And these doctors had redacted reports about his medical care in Germany. So, yes, that's another reason why I blame them for Navalny. But
yes.
Go ahead.
So there was never solid proof. The entire narrative fell apart. And that didn't stop the West, though, from using Navalny as a political pawn against Russia. And even douchebags like U2's Bono rallied a whole audience to chant his name in one of the most cringe things I've ever seen after his death. Watch.
Apparently, Putin would never, ever say his name. So I thought tonight, people who believe in freedom, we must say his name. Not just remember it, but say it. Alexei Navalny. Alexei Navalny. Alexei Navalny.
Yeah, he also liked Nazis, Alexei Navalny. He also was free to leave his own country, even though he was convicted of a fraud. So I like freedom, too. Alexei Navalny had a lot of it. He broke his own parole. So Bono has just squandered the image of him as a, I want to say, erudite world spokesperson. So screw that guy.